in the debate today. What can you tell us about what went on in the Dome?
Well, first, I think we have an excellent fiscal plan that, once seriously studied and discussed, should produce some very engaging and interesting debate. Unfortunately, it would appear that the members of the opposition came to this debate for the purpose of theatrics, gimmickry, and to produce and continue to stir the flames of ethnic separation, ethnic discrimination, and seek to want to produce an environment of hostility among the people of Guyana as we seek to develop and we go forward. For example, the very first speak on their side this morning, the Honorable Member, Ms. Nima Flu-Bess, sought to go in a direction that one can consider, if that is the kind of language and behavior that you should have at the National Assembly, or if this was a deliberate, sanctioned approach by the parliamentary opposition as their first speaker to display what you could expect for the rest of this week. Over a period of time, people determine who they trust and who they don't trust. Over a period of time, people determine who is credible and who is questionable. And the more people present themselves as extremists, and I even dare say as part of a lunatic fringe, you become more unbelievable. The Parliament is a place where when you say something, it must be supported by facts. Not only facts that you could quote from a report, a paper, with a source, but things that could be fact-checked. Like, for example, the actions that were taken at Mucka by the Central Housing and Planning Authority. That could be easily fact-checked. Meetings were held with all of the individuals. The Lands and Survey can tell you that the land is government reserve. Everybody will be aware of what was the offer that was made to the persons to move, what was the level of assistance that would be given. And still having all of these facts out there, the Central Housing and Planning Authority would have published full-page advertisements calling upon the people, giving them notice to move, and carrying with it in those articles information that could help the process forward. And still having known that all these things exist, you will come to the hallowed and sacred halls of the National Assembly and say things that are not factual and could be fact-checked to prove that they're untruth and there is misinformation. That brings the House into disrepute. So we started off our day and our week of budget debates at an all-time low. Then we moved from name of Flu-Bess and we went to Amanza Desir. Obviously, it would appear that Amanza Desir has not recovered from the fact that she has been reduced from her super salary that she was enjoying under the APNU AFC while at the GCA, and she's been reduced to living on the salary of a parliamentarian. The benefits and allowances and all the perks that went along with that is no longer available to her. So her personal experience has blinded and has colored, and she has now produced a jaundiced view about what is the Guyanese reality. So in her eyes and in her lens, everything is about targeting Afro-Guyanese. There again, you could fact check, and the facts exist. What Minister Sonia Parag give the statistics. How many Afro-Guyanese got scholarship? How many Indo-Guyanese got scholarship from the total? No evidence whatsoever of discrimination. You could go through every sector and you could see through housing, the ministers would be able to tell you by figure how many Afro-Guyanese got house lots, how many Indo-Guyanese have house lots. And you know what is the question that I heard the leader of the opposition asking, heckling? How do you know they're Afro-Guyanese? But these are the very same people who claim that Afro-Guyanese are being discriminated against. How do they know that they're Afro-Guyanese? So we went on with that. This whole issue about discrimination against Afro-Guyanese. And I think one speaker, I think it was Mr. Mahai Paul, went through to say that the Indo-Guyanese are having the best Afro-Guyanese, the worst, about the realities of the different Guyana. They have an Indo-Guyanese Guyana, Afro-Guyanese Guyana. And this kind of a narrative is not good for Guyana. It is not founded in anything that is factual. It is not founded in anything that is true. And these things can be easily fact-checked. And here we are in the August Assembly. And we have members who are paid to represent people coming to the House with emotions, narratives, just like what similarly existed under a big tent that we had out there during the period of June, July, when we were doing the recount of the votes, having attempted to rig and steal an entire election. They went out there day by day and spin narratives about dead people voting and missing documents and all of that to kerfuffle the minds of the Guyanese people, knowing fully well that at the end of the day, all Guyanese will be able to sit down and add who got the most votes, who got the least votes, who the winner and who the losers. So it takes a very special kind of a people to spin those narratives, knowing that you could be fact-checked, knowing that the people of Guyana will be able to see that you're seeking to mislead, misinform, and to create mischief. So on this first day of the debates, I want to express disappointment. You do not come to the National Assembly to represent your personal interests. You do not use your personal experience to lambast and denigrate and insult your opponent. You come here to debate, to show what could be done better, what are your proposals, how we could make Guyana better. I have spoken before using this particular language, the standpipish behavior. And you know, this, in the village, when we didn't have water to every home and water to every house, we used to have one standpipe in a street, and everybody used to have to go there to line up to get their bucket of water. And many days a bacchanal will break forth because somebody's impatient about getting their bucket filled. And in the bacchanal, all the buckets with the water are being tumbled and the pipe is flowing and nobody is benefiting. How long are we going to continue with this standpipish behavior? So I think what I would want to use this opportunity, since you've asked, is to say to the other speakers who are coming from the APNU, if at all they can help themselves, if at all they could reform themselves, if at all they could rise to the occasion, don't bring yourself to such levels of indignity by saying things that could be easily proven as misinformation. Christopher Jones, the government chief whip, who was supposedly speaking on governance and shadowing the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, made some statements that were quite appalling. It caused the Speaker of the National Assembly to respond by saying what is the actual record. You are standing here in the Parliament saying something, when the fact, the Attorney General has shown that among the parliaments in the Caribbean, we have passed the most bills in the year 2022. 26 bills became acts, more than any other jurisdiction in the Caribbean. And you're coming here to complain about a non-functioning parliament. The Speaker had to go through how many questions were asked, how many questions were answered, how many motions were tabled, how many motions became a resolution. Christopher Jones, the opposition chief whip, stood up in his presentation, a prepared presentation, that he read every page. I don't know if he wrote it, or if he wrote it, he didn't research it. And the Speaker at the end of it have to say, I have to bring this information to public notice and go through. That is something that should really cause somebody to feel very ashamed, run for cover and hide, or at best, man up to the reality and offer an apology. But you don't get that kind of a reaction from this opposition. So I guess we have to, the Guyanese people deserve better than this. You have a budget presented by Dr. Ashley Singh that spoke to a Guyana that is rising, moving from a level into another level of development with the possibility of prospering everybody, every region, every community, a budget that caters for every aspect of society. So whether it's a young person who wants to own a motor car, measures to reduce taxation on that motor car. Whether it's a person who is seeking to bring about development in their own area of work, opportunities that exist that they could lay a hold of, training, development, scholarships. Whether it's a budget, whether it's a single parent that is worried about how they're going to get their children to school, greater interventions to ensure that their children go to school, the Because We Care cash grant, uniform assistance, the feeding program. And you know, I heard a member stood up and said that they're happy that we are continuing the feeding program that they started. This again could be fact-checked. The schools feeding program started under the PPPC. It was first a World Bank funded program. When that program came to an end, at that time I was a minister within the Ministry of Finance. We continued it with local funding. They reduced it to the Bs, which catered only for a small percentage of the Guyanese population. So even if as president, Mr. Granger, give away 1,000 bicycles, there are 189, 190,000 children in school. Even if you put some buses, 20 buses, that could carry 4,000 children to school, what happened to the 195, 196,000 other children who have to get to school? In our interventions, we didn't just cater for an elite group or children of party supporters. Every child, no matter where or what political view their parents have, or if they're politically active or not, once you're a child registered in a private school or in a public school, you benefit from the government cash grant. What could be a suggestion coming from them that is superior to that? And then you'll come to the House and mislead people that you started a feeding program which was in existence before you got there. So, as a person, I sat there and I was kind of, wow, is this really happening? Are we going through that period where people in a narcissistic approach just say things and then turn around and believe their own lies, trying to bring attention to themselves, looking good for the cameras, and then after the moment, you know you could be ridiculed by even the people who are commenting on Facebook? Because in an era of social media, this population is a highly intelligent population. They might not have A in English and A in mathematics, but in terms of common sense, analytical skills, reasoning, their capacity to analyze things have grown and developed, and they're commenting. So I would hope that day 2 and day 3, day 4, day 5, they will see some level of change on the opposition, but that's if they can change. That is if they can rise to the occasion. And I seriously doubt that that is possible. So I am not very hopeful that it would happen.
All right. Thank you, Minister. I know you have to get back to the debate, so thank you for your time, and thank you, the viewers out there. Please stay tuned as NCN continues to provide you the coverage of the Budget 2023 debates.